Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard about Harry Reid? Harry Reid saying no mas. Harry Reid announced that he will not seek re-election. By the way, does anybody believe that Harry Reid really had an accident with his exercise machine? Does anybody really believe that's why Harry Reid is still bruised and is still wearing dark glasses, months after this accident with his exercise machine? I don't believe for a minute that whatever happened to Harry Reid, it has anything to do with an exercise machine unless somebody repeatedly threw him into it. Harry Reid looks like and is acting like, and now with this announcement, behaving like somebody who may have been beaten up. Nobody, I've never seen anybody have an accident with an exercise machine. It ends up suffering symptoms much like Harry Reid's for as long as Harry Reid has. Well, no, David Koch is a close second, but I think I inspire more hatred on the left than David Koch does. But it's a tight race. You know, David Koch donated $25 million to some hospital, and the nurses protested wanting him to give the money back because he didn't really mean it. He was only giving him $25 million to hide the fact he's a racist pig and a sexist. And interestingly enough, Avery Fisher Hall sits right across the quad there from the David H. Koch Auditorium at Lincoln Center. He donated enough money to either renovate or have a new auditorium built. They named it after him, of course. So the left shows up at the place, seeing David H. Koch Auditorium, and they walk into whatever they go to at Lincoln Center enraged when they see this guy mentions my name before the performance of his stupid symphony. So anyway, Dingy Harry, the tough tactician, let me read to this New York Times, the tough tactician who has led Senate Democrats since 2005, will not seek re-election next year, bringing an end to a 3-decade congressional career that culminated with his push of Obama's ambitious agenda against fierce Republican resistance. Dingy Harry, 75, who sustained serious eye and facial injuries in a January 1 accident with his exercise machine at his Las Vegas. See, it's my point. January 1st, it's March 20, with 3 months, and you still have signs of injury for an accident running into your exercise machine? No. Anyway, the point here, ladies and gentlemen, I think as we look at the political landscape, a number of prominent Democrats are resigning and retiring, and it's a trend. It's not just now. We've had a number of Democrats announce they're going to go. It's also rumored that Pelosi may get out. And when this kind of thing begins to happen, the Democrats don't want to be there if they're not running the show. They don't want to be in Congress when they're in the minority. And I think I'm pretty safe in saying it, Dingy Harry's retirement, and there could be numerous reasons for it, many reasons, including those that could have led to him being beaten up by his exercise machine, has just decided he doesn't want to be in the minority. And he's probably figured out the Democrats are not going to win the Senate back and may not win the White House in 2016. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to go home, spend more time with the family, with the grandkids. He wants to teach them how to do screwball land deals before time runs out. Maybe spend some more time on a new exercise machine. Maybe build a bunker underground where people that threw him into the current exercise machine can't find him to throw him into the new one. But we've had a very famous run-in with Dingy Harry on this program. Dingy Harry once attempted to have your host, your beloved fuzzball leader, me, censored and silenced. Dingy Harry applied pressure to the chief executive officer of my then syndication partner, Clear Channel Communications, a man by the name of Mark May. You remember this? It was over this totally made-up controversy involving the phony soldier. Let me take a break, come back. I want to, because this is one of the high points of the EIB network. What happened? One of the major victories that we have had here over the Democrat Party and a leader in that party, a humiliating, overwhelming defeat of Harry Reid. And what we did on this program was an illustration of how you can fight back to these people and win if you just have the desire to do so. For those of you new to the program, maybe at Avery Fisher Hall last night, listening for the first time today, and are not aware of what I'm talking about, do not go anywhere. You don't want to miss this. For those of you who remember it, it'll be fun to relive it as we go back to the graveyard of forgotten favorites right after this. It happened 8 years ago. It's unbelievable to me how fast time is going. 8 years ago, in 2007, it was in September and October. And the short version of this is that a man claiming to be a veteran of the Iraq War came back to the United States and began bashing the American military, bashing the war effort, bashing George Bush. We did a little research, and we determined the guy was a fraud, that he had never been to Iraq. He had never been in the U.S. military. He was a leftist plant, much like a Cindy Sheehan was. Totally made up, and the media was supporting him, and the Democrat Party was supporting him, and he was a total fraud. And I ended up calling the guy a phony soldier. And this irritated Harry Reid, who only knew about this from reading from a propaganda website called Media Matters for America, which was also lying about all of this. So Harry Reid, or somebody in his staff, reads the account and thinks that I have maligned a real hero as a phony soldier. Now, what made this exciting or enticing to the Democrats is that they had already coined the term phony soldier. The Democrats, if you remember in this period of time, this is 2007, they were doing everything they could to impugn the war effort. They were doing everything they could to secure defeat for the armed forces because they wanted to hang that defeat around the neck of George W. Bush. And so they were any military person that came along and told any tale about how rotten the military was, about the atrocities we were committing, and this was part of this phony guy's story, the Democrats ate it up. They ate it up, and it didn't matter that it was as big a lie as Harry Reid's lie about Mitt Romney not paying his taxes. They ran with it. Well, they were using the term phony soldier, and Harry Reid, some of these staff, comes across the propaganda piece on Media Matters and thinks they've got me. Harry Reid goes to the floor of the United States Senate and reads a letter that he had sent to the then CEO of Clear Channel Communications, my syndicating partner. Man's name is Mark Mays. Harry Reid called him Mark May. And the letter begged or asked, and it's you're a CEO of a major American communications conglomerate. Many of your properties are regulated by the federal government, the FCC. You get a letter from the Senate Majority Leader suggesting you do something, and there is a lot of implied intimidation. And Harry Reid knew this. And the letter that Dingy Harry composed and sent to Mark Mays, he read verbatim on the Senate floor. And he asked Mark Mays to censor me, to make me apologize, and to think seriously about allowing me to continue. And then after reading the letter, he then did indeed send it. And Mark Mays did indeed receive it. At which point I had an idea. I got hold of Mark Mays, syndication partner, CEO, Clear Channel Communications, and I asked him if I could have the letter for the purposes of auctioning it on eBay. Because what that letter represented was the long arm of the federal government making a direct assault on the First Amendment rights of an average, ordinary American citizen. That would be me. The First Amendment is clear. The government shall not abridge the right to free speech, particularly free political speech. Not to mention, folks, that everything Harry Reid asserted was a lie. Remember, the phony soldier was a phony soldier. He had never been in Iraq. He was making up the details of the atrocities he had seen, and they were bad. And they were typical. American soldiers were raping Iraqi women. They were frightening and terrorizing Iraqi children. They were behaving basically as brutes, and they were going from town to town, leaving a trail and a path of destruction. And, of course, this is what the left wanted to hear. They ate it up. It became true in their minds. And when it became obvious that this guy was phony, Dingy Harry decided to try to expose me as a critic of the military. And that was his big mistake, well, one of many big mistakes. But no matter what people knew or thought of me, nobody was ever going to believe that I was anything other than 1,000% behind the American military. And Harry Reid, believing the propaganda he had found at Media Matters, decided to try to convey to the American people and anybody else who would listen that I was the one attacking the valor and the dignity and the character of uniformed military personnel. Mark Mays gave me that letter after I requested it, sent it to me, and allowed me to use it however I wanted, which I thought was a profound act of courage and bravery. Remember, his company has properties, radio stations, TV stations, that were regulated by the federal government. Easily intimidated. Some people in that position are. He could have said, "No, Rush, let's leave this alone." That's not that. But he gave me the letter. We put it up for auction on eBay as an example of the government trampling on the Constitution. It's a great historical example, I said. And I said, whoever buys this, donates the most to buy it, charity I named, I will match it. I am holding in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a copy of Harry Reid's letter to Mark Mays. It was October the 2nd of 2007. Not only did Harry Reid send the letter, it was signed by, I think, every Democrat in the Senate, including Senator Kennedy. Signed by Harry Reid, Dick Durbin, Patty Murray, Chuck Schumer, Tom Dung-Heap Harkin, Jack Reed, Frank Lautenberg, Hillary Rodham Clinton's signature is on the Harry Reid letter to Mark Mays. Let me read to you the last two paragraphs. Active and retired members of our armed forces have a unique perspective on the war and offer a valuable contribution to our national debate. In August, 7 soldiers wrote an op-ed expressing their concern with the current strategy in Iraq. Tragically, since then, 2 of those 7 soldiers have made the ultimate sacrifice in Iraq. Thousands of active troops and veterans were subjected to Mr. Limbaugh's unpatriotic and indefensible comments on your broadcast, Mr. Mays. We trust that you will agree that not a single one of our sons or daughters or neighbors and friends serving overseas is a phony soldier. We call on you to publicly repudiate these comments, and call into question their service and sacrifice, and to ask Mr. Limbaugh to apologize for his comments. Never mind the fact it was the Democrats who were impugning uniformed military people day in and day out. Oh, yeah, you want me to recall a couple of... How about the Marines in Haditha, accused of rape? The accusation was made, and there was Jack, what's his name, a congressman from Pennsylvania, and John Kerry. Jack Murtha. They were signing right onto it, accepted it before there was even a trial, just the charges alone. John Kerry went further and said American troops are terrorizing Iraqi women and children, trampling into their homes late at night. They knew that they were the ones that owned the image of anti-military, Harry Reid, the Democrats. So they thought this was an opportunity, this phony soldier thing, to transfer supposed anti-militarism to me. And that's what the purpose of the letter was, with all of these Democrat signers on it, folks. And so Mark Mays gave me the letter. We put it up on eBay for auction as a glaring, glittering example of an attempt by a ranking member of the United States Senate to intimidate and silence an average, ordinary American from the floor of the Senate via a letter to a business partner. We put it up, and I said that whatever amount of money we get for this, I'm going to match it, and we're going to donate it to the, are you waiting for it, Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation, which has been one of my top charities since it was formed in the mid-90s. The Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation provides college scholarships for the children of Marines killed in action. And during massive events like 9/11, they extend the scholarship offerings to the children of men and women killed in action from other services, the Air Force, the Secret Service, the Navy, you name it. Well, the bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, that we ended up collecting a top donation of $2.1 million. And I had pledged to match it. So that meant that $4.2 million ended up being donated to the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation because Dingy Harry went to the floor of the Senate and attempted to use me to impugn the United States military. It was one of the greatest reactions to a public event by the people in this audience that I have ever seen. The woman that came, the top bid, and by the way, there was a contest. There were two people bidding back and forth in the final days. And we finally got to $2.1 million. And I promised to match it. I had no idea it was going to get that kind of money, but it did, and I matched it. Outside the Beltway.com had a story. Rush Limbaugh nets $2.1 million for phony soldier's letter. Limbaugh auctioned off a letter signed by Harry Reid, Hillary Clinton, 39 other Senate Democrats condemning his phony soldier's comments for $2.1 million on eBay. He is matching the total, donates $4.2 million to a charity benefiting the families of Marines and police officers wounded and killed in the line of duty. What did Harry Reid do? After all of this, Harry Reid went back to the Senate floor and attempted to take credit for all of this. Have you forgotten that? He went back to the Senate floor and said, this is the kind of great thing that can happen when people work together for a common good. His original attempt was to essentially silence me. He ended up being publicly humiliated, and then his last act was to try to glom onto it, take credit for it, and act like he was the one ultimately responsible for it all happening because this is what he wanted. And here's what Harry Reid said, trying to take credit. This went from October 2nd, when it's the date of his letter, all the way to October the 19th. So basically 2.5 weeks, every day. Phony soldier, eBay, letter up for auction. The price kept going up. It was exciting. Harry Reid was being humiliated each and every day. So on the 19th of October, Harry Reid goes back to the floor of the Senate. He says, now, everyone knows that Rush Limbaugh and I don't agree on everything in life, and maybe that is kind of an understatement. But without qualification, Mark May, the owner of the network that has Rush Limbaugh, and Rush Limbaugh should know that this letter that they're auctioning is going to be something that raises money for a worthwhile cause. I don't know what we could do more important than helping to ensure that children are fallen soldiers and police officers who have fallen in the line of duty have the opportunity for their children to have a good education. I don't know what we could do more important than help. What do you mean we, Senator Reid? The phony soldier I was talking about, Jesse Macbeth, was his name, and he had falsely claimed he was a decorated Army Ranger war hero who took the stage at numerous anti-war demonstrations. He claimed that he was an Army Ranger, killed more than 200 people, many at close range, including some as they prayed in a mosque. In reality, Macbeth didn't even make it through 6 weeks of Army basic training. He never set foot in Iraq. He was a phony soldier, and he was being promoted by the Democrats as an anti-military spokesman, attempting to discredit the military and George W. Bush. On June 7th of 2007, Macbeth pleaded guilty to one count of making false statements to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. He admitted he filed a bogus claim for VA benefits 2005, which included a fraudulent military discharge form. He said on the forms he had been in the Army for more than 3 years. He had achieved the rank of corporal. He claimed he had been awarded a Purple Heart, that he was discharged because he suffered from PTSD. It was all lies. Every bit of it made up, and the Democrats probably knew it. And yet they used him. Rally after rally after rally. And when I pointed this out, that's what got this whole ball rolling, that I was accusing a great hero of being a phony soldier. And they tried to turn this all around into me being the anti-military guy. End result, Harry Reid humiliated Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation with $4.2 million. And we got a great parody tune out of the whole deal to boot.